Hey, Chris, welcome to the SABM podcast.
Scott, it's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man, it's great having you here, and it's great having a tech guy in 10X Vets and on the podcast today. It's kind of actually a rare skill set amongst veterans. There's not a lot of folks. I mean, certainly we use technology, right? But can we actually build technology? Like, not many people can. So that's a great and rare skill set that you have, and I'm excited to learn how you kind of found yourself down on this path.
Yeah, yeah. No, it for me it's a fun story to tell, and I love how my journey from the military into what I'm doing today has become kind of the core of who I am professionally and the companies that I get to work with. And that military experience was a little atypical, but I'm excited that I was able to translate that into something that's valuable out here on the civilian side.
Yeah. So maybe just at a high level, you're the founder of C Infinity Solutions. Would love for you to share what you do and what your company does, and then I'd like to kind of back into kind of how you got there from the military and how those dots connect, if you don't mind.
Yeah, happy to do that. So C Infinity, we're a digital consultancy. And at its core, what that means is that we work with clients to design, build, deploy, modernize, and maintain their strategic digital assets. By digital assets, those are products and services from web applications, mobile apps, or internal systems and tools that they use either to engage with their customers or clients or to run and operate their businesses. Um, we work with clients everywhere from founders that have an idea that they want to incubate and turn into a scalable product, up to Fortune 500 enterprises that bring us in to work on some of those tools that they use to really operate their business either on the back end or to engage with their customers. So we've got a pretty wide range of capabilities that we use to deliver that, but it's all about those digital products and services that really run business today.
Is there one specific digital type of digital product, or maybe a use case that you're like just so excited about right now, or like when a customer has this particular challenge, you're like, oh, I can't wait to work on this project.
Yeah. So I mean, I would say that, I mean, there's two things that there's two areas that I get really excited about and that my team gets really excited about. The first one is probably the more traditional use case, which is a large enterprise has a new product or a service that they're trying to build, and they're saying, hey, like we've got a business unit that has identified this great market opportunity. We excel at it, and we think that we have this idea to bring new value or more value to our customers that our competitors can't get into. Um, and some of those things that you might see out there today are like a lot of the banks are building tools to engage with their customers, using new AI capabilities. Or, places like Disney when they decided to make Disney Plus, platforms like that, and maybe not as large a scale like that for us because we are still a smaller company. But those types of projects have traditionally been like our big sweet spot where we can bring in a team that can make a measurable impact on a new market opportunity and bring those to life for our customers. Um, what I have also been really excited about over the last 20 months that I've been running C Infinity, is I love working with non-technical founders that have a an idea, or maybe it's even more proven out than an idea, but a concept that they know is going to have a measurable impact on them building a new business or a capability, but they don't know how to implement the technology or bring the technology to life to build that capability. And that's what we really excel at C Infinity is working with those founders and saying, okay, like, you don't need to go hire a chief product officer. You don't need to go hire a CTO and then a whole engineering team and a bunch of designers to go build that for you. We've got a methodology and a set of tools and the team that can execute on that extremely quickly. And we do it in a way that makes it scalable to meet the goals of their idea so that it's not just a thrown together, MVP or proof of concept, but it's actually working software that has the ability to scale with their needs. So those are the two areas where we really excel.
Yeah, that second example is probably a lot of fun for you, right? Because like you're like a superhero to those people. And they're maybe a superhero to you because they found this need or they serve this niche or whatever it might be that you might not be familiar with, and you don't might maybe don't know the need, but you understand the technology and you can see how to, you know, create the technology, based on whatever that vision is that that founder might have, but they just can't build it, right? It's like, oh, I can
Yep.
see like what the thing should look like or what I just don't have the capability to build it. And that's
To
where you
build it.
guys come in.
It is, yeah. And I think the reason that I'm most excited about that is because I'm not a software engineer by trade. Up until 24 months ago, the last time I had written a line of code was MATLAB script in Rickover at Annapolis. And I sucked at it back then. Um, and I've been in this space ever since I got out of the military. I was around it in the military as well. Um, but I've always been on the business building side, right? So I got out of the military, I went to IBM because I wanted to learn how to sell and see how big companies use technology. Incredible experience. Um, but they didn't hire me to be a software engineer. And I could sit with a CTO or head of business unit and have a great conversation about the application of technology. But at the end of the day, I had almost no clue what those software engineers were doing day in and day out. Um, Over the last 24 months since I started C Infinity, I've taken the track that I need to be much deeper in how we actually do the work. And so, I've trained myself to know enough software engineering to be dangerous, um, and for my engineering team to be scared of what I might do when they're not watching. Um, but also enough to like translate some of those ideas that I have for our business and say, I can go build this capability. Um, and I think that some of the things that are coming out now with AI and some of the tools that we have at our disposal are just accelerating the opportunity for people that want to build and have that engineering mindset, but maybe don't have the deep software development skills to start executing and building technology. And part of what we do is we help, both translate the vision, but then also show people how they can be hands-on with technology so they can better understand it and then make better decisions about their business and, the future of what their business is going to look like.
Yeah. And it sounds like you have a pretty robust team. I mean, what are some examples of, I guess different skill sets that you have on the team or the team that you've built. So when a customer is like, yeah, like here's my idea, you help them kind of shape that vision and how technology might be able to help them achieve it. And then like who are like the go-to skill sets that you really value, for the people that are on your team that can, really that can build these things.
Yeah. So, we're structured today from a team composition, just like I would say most traditional software development consultancies. And for those that don't spend a lot of time in that industry, which I would assume would be maybe probably a lot of your listeners today. So digital product managers. So product management is one of our core capabilities. It's something that I love doing personally, and then I've got some other folks on the team that do that with me. So a lot of like translating business strategy and business requirements into technology specifications. We've got some tools and a methodology that we've built that enhance that capability. Um, we've got technical architects, which today I think are becoming the most critical skills, and these are the folks that can look at a software system or a technology system and make really good decisions about how we're thinking about things like cloud skills or cloud databases, being able to connect those efficiently to a front end and a back end, um, and all the ancillary tools that we're building into software. But those folks that those architects are really critical now as we're moving away from engineers that are writing lines of code day in and day out. Um, and then we do still have software engineers. It's still the largest number of people on our team. So traditional software engineers that are doing front end development, so things that you would see on the web, right? Everything that you see on the web is some sort of front end engineering. And then back end engineers that are either doing, the data side or building those integrations between systems. Um, that's a skill. And then product designers, so UX and UI designers, so the folks that can make what you're looking at visually appealing, and then make that experience you have connecting or working through a piece of technology an enjoyable experience. So those are really the core capabilities that we have on the team. I've also got a head of delivery who is a project manager by trade, and he'll get mad at me for saying this live, but I think that project managers are one of those skills that I want to get rid of out of our industry. I think that it's become an overhead expense. Um, project management as a capability, I think, is incredibly critical, but it's one of those first things that I'm looking to automate out of our business, and put that back into the hands of people that are actually doing the work day in and day out. But yeah, I think it's a pretty good rundown of the skills we got on the team.
Yeah, and how are you? Uh, I'm just thinking back to the call. You were a guest speaker on the all call a few months ago, and you did like a show and tell of like this AI tool that you had
Yeah.
built to kind of help a customer kind of bring an idea to life. Would you mind sharing that or just walk through that with us today?
Yeah. Um, I mentioned that we have some methodologies that we've been building, and for those of us that like to geek out on software engineering and like technology development, there's all these processes and methods that people use to build software. So if you're familiar at all in the space and you've heard of things like traditional agile, or waterfall development, where you have like a set of requirements and you build them sequentially through a project. Um, when companies engage with software partners or technology partners, they usually come in with a list of requirements, and they hand that to a partner or several partners and say, hey, like, tell me what it's going to cost me from a time and resources perspective to go build this against these sets of requirements. And my experience in the like 12 years that I've been doing this now, from very large companies like IBM to small ones like mine, like Infinity now, has been that most clients do a really bad job of writing ironclad requirements, and most consultancies do a really bad job of validating those requirements for fear of overscoping projects and losing to a company that underscopes it and wins on a promise of lower cost or lower effort. So one of the first things that I started building at Infinity was essentially a tool or capability that said, we're going to standardize the way that we work with clients at the requirements generation process. So taking that idea, boiling that idea down to all the things that you need to have in order to have a great strategy for a product. So things like your vision statement and your vision board, who your ideal customer profile is, the user personas that you're working with, a product glossary, so we have a common language that we're talking with, and then features that you want your software to have based on all those earlier deliverables that I just have been talking about. And so we've built a tool as part of our internal process that we use now, and it essentially allows a user or a customer of ours or client to come up with a vision for a product, and then use our process, our development process, which is based on behavior-driven development, um, and we've continued to expand on that, and generate engineering level specifications, like down to the smallest detail, in a way that makes it very easy to communicate that between the business and technology team that has to implement it. And so traditionally, when I've done things like that with clients, we usually do it over like multiple calls pre-contract, where we're trying to understand their vision and they're giving us what they have, and we're trying to feed it back to them. Or it's with a client that said, okay, like, we want to work with you, And then the first phase of the project is this requirements definition and scoping process. Sometimes that's taken like 4 weeks of like nonstop work with a very high priced team and a lot of client interaction. Um, we've been able to get that down to like 4 hours of work, from like just an idea, like a well understood idea, to full engineering specs that we can hand off to engineers to start building. And we built that into a tool. Um, we're in the process of turning that into a tool that we actually will, probably be selling as a SaaS product, in addition to the services that we offer. Um, but the idea is to you know to help business leaders make those technical requirements in a way that's easy for an engineering team to go execute against those, as quickly as possible.
Yeah, that's amazing. 4 weeks to 4 hours. So,
Yeah.
yeah, you take a lot of cost and time out of a lot out of that equation. So, yeah, it was really cool to watch. They kind of watched the demo on the call a while back. So, congrats on building that. Um,
Thanks.
Awesome. And then that
Yeah.
becomes a product that, yeah, so that's pretty cool too. So you created a product kind of for yourself, that you're offering that just makes your process easier and faster and less expensive. And then you turn that into a product that you can also sell to other people, right? So,
Yep. And I think that that's been kind of one of the core things for my business. So C Infinity, it's this is an industry. I'm in an industry now that has traditionally been focused on linear growth from a perspective of the way that you grow revenue in a services business is by having enough clients that want the team that you have to support them. So it's a very, very linear model where I have a new client, I need a certain number of engineers to support that client, and it's a one-to-one relationship. Um, I'm really trying to change that game, and we have, because of the capabilities that we're building and the AI tools now, it's not a one-to-one relationship. So I can take on the same amount of work from a client, but I need a much smaller, albeit more specialized team, to go execute that business. Um, being a provider of software as a service tools accelerates that growth even more significantly, because now I'm building tools that we use with our clients, but then if I can sell those on the as a standalone product, um, obviously there's it completely changes the economics of the business. And I truly believe that the traditional outsourcing models of just finding people that can fill seats and write lines of code or do business process outsourcing, that model is like very short-lived based on technologies that are out there today. And we're just not going to get behind that curve. We have to be leading on that curve. So it's exciting for us as a company.
yeah, very exciting. Well, good. And we're I guess we just finished Q1, so the year is flying by here, but what are some of your most important goals, maybe short term, over the next 90 days here in Q2, and then longer term, as you look down the road 3 to 5 years from now, what are some of your larger moonshot type goals?
Yeah. So, now that we have basically finished the kind of the internal tooling that I demoed to you and the 10x vets community, and you guys saw that demo like 3 days after I had kind of finished V1 of that. So, it's come a long way in the last couple of months. But my goal that I put out there for myself, because I do all of our client development, all of our business development, I think that's really important for me as a business owner to be leading that charge. I want to have 12 conversations with founders using that methodology, and those sets of tools to try to show them, that what they want to build is feasible and economically valuable to them, to go build. So four like legitimate conversations like that a month, for this quarter. So getting to 12 by the end of the second or the first half, is kind of that initial goal. Um, I appreciate you holding me accountable now for that goal. So in 3 months, when I email you, and I'll tell you if we hit that or not. But I think it's absolutely achievable, and it would be um, a great thing for the company. Um, from a long-term perspective, um, I'm really focused on, as we have these conversations, especially with the founders that have these kind of industry changing ideas. Um, I want to be able to look at solutions that can make a difference in how, an individual founder runs a company, but also think about those solutions that could have industry or market segment defining implications, and potentially go out and start investing in building those solutions with the idea that if we find an industry that is kind of ripe for that, acquisition by entrepreneurship or entrepreneurship by acquisition, type of a model where, I can look at an industry segment and say, okay, like this is a historically underserved market from a technology perspective. And if we build this system or this platform that makes these companies more operationally efficient, does it make sense to start thinking about going out and finding those, legacy founders or owners that are ready to sell, and start doing my own kind of like mini PE roll up and saying, okay, I've got the technology that is going to make, a bunch of these companies more efficient. Maybe just makes sense to start owning those companies and then providing those solutions. So from a long-term perspective, that's something that's it's been on my mind. Um, I have a second organization, C Infinity Labs, that kind of has that as a mission statement, and has been looking for investment partners to potentially come on board for that over time. Um, so just continue to look at the segments where that could be really interesting, has been kind of my long-term vision as well.
Yeah, that's a great vision, So um yeah, I mean that's like a really cool wealth creation vision, right?
Yeah.
So, you obviously have your company that you're building and then even this new product that could become the SaaS product, but then it's like how do you freaking, how do you how do you turbocharge this, right? And then start, building a portfolio of these types of companies where, you identify a way to help them through technology and then make them more valuable, right?
Right.
So, all
Yeah.
right.
I mean, I think that's the goal. I think it's everybody. I mean, it's one of my dreams. So, I love it, but we'll
Okay.
see. Yeah.
All right. And what are the most valuable connections for you? So it sounds like you're looking for some founders to have conversations with, 12 of them. Um,
Yep.
so I don't know if you want to niche that down at all, or maybe just based on what you've described, people will be able to kind of self-identify that maybe they're one of those founders. But yeah, I guess what are some of the most valuable connections for you? For the folks listening, how can we connect you with the right people?
Yeah. So I think, I mean, those non-technical, and I hate to niche down to non-technical founders because there's a bunch of folks that are out there that are technical founders that they need help both on the product vision and then just on the execution side. So, um, those founders are definitely like top of mind for me, and I love having those conversations. Um, I think the one qualification that I always put on these is that I want to meet founders that have a vision for a product that they view as scalable, not that they're looking for something that's like kind of a point solution that they're like, oh, this could be like a side gig. I think there's a market. I know the market, but it's not huge. I want to talk to those founders that have like world changing or industry changing ideas and really truly believe in the scale of what they're trying to build. Because technology is not it's not cheap to build. You can do it cheap, but then you're not going to be able to scale it. And that's one of the things that I really talk about with folks is if you really have conviction in what you want to build, then that means that we would have to go out and figure out how to raise some capital for that so that we've got an investment. And I'm willing to co-invest with folks on those things. But folks that really have those big ideas and they're ready to like really push the pedal down and say, I want to go do this. So those types of founders that are out there, are really exciting for me. I know there's a lot of veterans that are doing that. veterans have great connections that are doing that. Um, so anything in that space, and then, I love connecting with veterans that are in enterprise that, are, in those traditionally, I would say like hard to make an impact in organizations. So, big banks or pharma or, things like commercial real estate, like big commercial real estate industries that are resistant to big technology shifts. But they have veterans that are, working within those groups that, that want to be a hero within those groups or those companies and say, hey, I've got this idea. I want to go execute it. Um, I love those conversations, right? Those are the guys that I want to turn them into heroes. I want them to be able to sit in front of their board of directors and talk about how they had this vision and that they went and executed it and that we never even get mentioned, right? We're just the silent partner that, is enabling that. Those are some great conversations too. And I know there's a ton of vets that have done incredible things within big companies. The big banks are have been a great proving ground for, veterans transitioning out. Um, so any of those guys or gals that are listening, give me a call. We'd love to get engaged on some of the things that they're building as well.
Awesome, Chris. Well, congrats, man. Congrats on what you've built and the team that you have in place and all the people that you're helping. And man, just really exciting. And what's the best way for folks to reach out and get in touch and learn more about you and what you do?
Yeah. So it's easy to find me on LinkedIn, but cinfinitysolutions.com is the website. Chris at cinfinitysolutions.com goes right to my inbox. And my phone number is the info number on our website. So if anybody ever wants to call, I love the old school, like getting on the phone or getting on Zoom and actually talking as opposed to just email back and forth. Um, but yeah, easy to find me, and I'm usually pretty quick to respond to any of those inbound links. So
Awesome. All right, Chris. Well, we'll link to your LinkedIn profile and also put your website on the in the show notes so people can reach out and connect after they listen to this. And did we miss anything, or did we cover all the bases today, or any parting shots before we wrap up?
no, I think this was great. I'm excited to see how the veterans community continues to expand into the business ownership space, and I think that this community that we're part of now is an um, incredible thing, and I'm excited to see some other groups continue to pop up where we can all help each other. So um, this is the best community, best fraternity that anybody can join, and you can't pay to get in. You've got to have put in the time and the effort to do it. So I'm excited to have the opportunity to continue working with more vets and see where we can take the future. So thanks for having me, Scott.
Yeah, thanks. Here's to an awesome 2025.